Why you should read Human Psychology. Let me ask you something simple but powerful. Have you ever wanted to understand why people do what they do? Why you think the way you think? Why some relationships thrive while others fall apart? The answer to all of these lies in one profound field of study, human psychology. Reading human psychology isn't just for therapists, teachers, or doctors. It's for everyone who interacts with people, and that means all of us. Whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, a parent, a leader, or someone simply trying to navigate life, understanding human psychology is the game changer you've been missing. Know thyself. Psychology unlocks self-awareness. Let's begin with a simple yet powerful truth. You cannot change what you do not understand, and the deepest, most important understanding you'll ever gain in this life is of yourself. The ancient Greek maxim carved into the temple of Apollo at Delphi, I said it best, know thyself. And today, in our fast-paced, overstimulated, and often disconnected world, those two words are more urgent than ever. But how do you truly know yourself? Not just your name, your age, or your job title, but your core. Your beliefs, your patterns, your fears, your wiring. The answer is simple but profound: psychology. Reading and studying human psychology is like holding a mirror up to your mind, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. And that understanding is the beginning of transformation. You start seeing the why behind your behavior. Most people walk through life reacting instead of reflecting. They get triggered, frustrated, overwhelmed, and they don't know why. They repeat the same mistakes, enter the same kinds of relationships, and wonder why nothing changes. But when you begin to study psychology, you start seeing the blueprint behind your actions. You realize that procrastination isn't laziness, it's fear of failure or perfectionism. That overthinking isn't a character flaw, it's rooted in anxiety or past trauma. That people-pleasing isn't kindness, it's a strategy to avoid rejection. And suddenly, the fog lifts. You start catching your patterns. You begin choosing your actions instead of being controlled by them. That is the first step of power, the power of self-awareness. You discover the stories running your life. Here's a truth many people never realize. Your brain is telling you a story every single day about who you are, what you deserve, and what's possible for you. But most of these stories were planted early by your parents, teachers, culture, or past experiences. And many of them are lies. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. No one really stays. I don't have what it takes. These thoughts feel like facts, but they're just scripts. Psychology helps you trace them back to their roots and rewrite them. You begin to separate who you are from what you were told, and that separation sets you free. You learn how your past still lives in you. One of the most powerful gifts psychology gives you is awareness of how your past shapes your present. Your childhood experiences, attachment styles, early emotional wounds, they all quietly influence how you respond to life today. Why you fear intimacy, why you avoid confrontation, why you crave approval, why certain words or actions hurt more than they should. It's not just how you are. It's where you've been, and once you understand that, you can stop blaming yourself and start healing. Reading psychology teaches you that your triggers are teachers. Your wounds are not weaknesses, they are clues pointing to where your growth lies. Self-awareness leads to emotional mastery. Without self-awareness, your emotions run the show. You react in anger, fall into guilt, spiral in anxiety, and you don't know how to stop it. But psychology gives you tools. It teaches you about emotional regulation, cognitive distortions, and mindfulness. It shows you how to pause, observe, and respond rather than explode or shut down. You begin to understand, I'm not angry, I'm feeling powerless. I'm not cold, I'm protecting myself. I'm not weak, I'm human. And that shift from emotional chaos to emotional clarity is what transforms your relationships, your choices, and your inner peace. You step into the driver's seat of your life when you know yourself. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop letting fear dictate your path. You stop chasing validation from others. You stop outsourcing your worth, and instead you choose goals aligned with your authentic values. You set boundaries that protect your energy. You speak up because you know your truth. This is the freedom that self-awareness brings, the ability to move through life with direction, not confusion, with peace, not panic, with confidence, not constant second guessing. The mirror and the map reading psychology is like holding up a mirror to your inner world and finally being able to see. But it's not just a mirror. It's also a map, one that guides you from where you are to who you're meant to be. When you know yourself, you no longer fear what's inside you. You make peace with your past, take ownership of your present, and walk boldly into your future. So if you've ever felt lost, stuck, misunderstood, start there. Know thyself, study the mind, read psychology, because the more you understand yourself, the more power you have to change everything. Master relationships through emotional understanding. Let's be honest, relationships are both the most rewarding and the most challenging parts of our lives. Whether it's with a partner, a friend, a family member, or a colleague, our connections can bring us deep joy or deep pain. But here's a truth we rarely talk about. Most relationship struggles don't come from a lack of love or intention. They come from a lack of emotional understanding. To master relationships, you don't need perfection. You don't need to say the right thing every time. You don't even need to agree on everything. What you do need is emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and respond to emotions, both your own and those of others. Because when you understand emotions, you understand people. And that is the key to lasting, fulfilling relationships. Understand yourself first. Emotional awareness begins within. You cannot give what you haven't developed. If you don't understand your own emotions, if you can't name what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, or how to express it in a healthy way, then every relationship you have will suffer. Think about it. How often do you react from anger instead of communicating from hurt? How many times have you shut down emotionally instead of opening up with honesty? How often do you expect others to just know how you feel without ever really saying it? When you read about human psychology and emotional intelligence, you start catching these patterns. You learn to pause and say, wait, this isn't just anger, this is disappointment. Or this isn't about them, this is something unresolved in me. That kind of self-awareness changes everything, because when you understand what's going on inside you, you stop projecting it onto others. Empathy is the bridge, not the weapon. Let's talk about the most powerful tool in any relationship. Empathy, not sympathy, not pity, not I feel bad for you. Empathy says, I'm with you, I feel you, I see your pain. Not as a problem to fix, but as a human experience to honor. When someone feels truly seen and heard, their walls come down, their defenses soften. They stop fighting to be right and start opening up to be understood. Emotional understanding means you stop trying to win arguments and you start trying to win connection. It means you ask, what are they really trying to say underneath their tone, their frustration, or their silence? People rarely say exactly what they mean when they're overwhelmed. A partner who says, you never listen, might actually be crying out, I don't feel important to you. A friend who's distant might not be cold. They might be silently battling depression. If you react to the surface, you miss the truth. But if you respond with emotional depth, you create a space where love, honesty, and healing can grow. Conflict becomes a catalyst, not a crisis. Conflict is inevitable, but how you handle it determines whether it builds walls or breaks them down. Emotionally intelligent people don't fear conflict, they navigate it. When you understand emotions, you don't take everything personally. You don't need to explode to feel heard. You learn to say things like, I feel hurt. Not because you're wrong, but because this matters to me. I want us to fix this together, not fight each other. Let's pause and come back when we're both ready to listen, not defend. That level of emotional maturity turns arguments into deeper understanding. It creates safe conflict, where both people can express, grow, and reconnect, without destroying the bond. You create a safe emotional environment. Every healthy relationship has one thing in common: emotional safety. People thrive where they feel safe to be vulnerable, where they can speak without being judged. where they can cry without being called weak, where their feelings are not dismissed or minimized. Emotional understanding means creating that kind of space. It means becoming the kind of person someone can trust with their truth. It means listening, not just to reply, but to understand. Ask yourself, can people tell me how they really feel? Do I make room for uncomfortable conversations? Do I shut people down because their feelings inconvenience me? If you want strong relationships, don't just focus on what you say. Focus on how you make people feel, because people don't remember every word, but they always remember the emotional tone you carried with them. You attract and sustain healthier connections when you master emotional understanding. You naturally start attracting people who value depth, honesty, and growth. Why? Because you're no longer emotionally unavailable, manipulative, or reactive. You're not chasing chaos or repeating trauma. You're showing up as your whole self, and that energy is magnetic. Your relationships become healthier because you're bringing your healthiest self to them. And the people who can't meet you there, they naturally fall away. Emotional understanding helps you break cycles. You stop choosing people based on emotional wounds and start choosing based on emotional compatibility. In closing, mastering relationships is not about being flawless. It's about being emotionally fluent. It's about learning to see beneath the surface and speak the language of the heart. Because when you understand emotions, you unlock the doorway to real intimacy, deep trust, and lasting love. So, if your relationships matter to you, and I know they do, invest in emotional understanding, read psychology, reflect deeply, practice empathy, communicate with care, because connection isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in moments, moments of compassion, clarity, and courage. And those who master emotional understanding, they don't just keep relationships, they elevate them. Emotional intelligence is the real superpower. We live in a world that praises achievement. We celebrate high IQ, advanced degrees, and technical skills. We admire those who are quick with numbers, sharp with strategy, or fluent in 5 languages. And yet, have you noticed, some of the most successful, magnetic, and resilient people aren't necessarily the smartest in the room, they're the most emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is not just a nice-to-have trait. It is a real superpower, one that determines how you show up, how you lead, how you love, and how you live. You could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't manage your emotions or understand others, that knowledge stays locked inside you. Emotional intelligence is what turns potential into power. It's what turns chaos into calm and pressure into presence. What is emotional intelligence, really? At its core, emotional intelligence is your ability to understand, manage, and express emotions effectively both in yourself and in others. It involves self-awareness, recognizing what you feel and why. Self-regulation, managing your impulses, reactions, and moods. Empathy, feeling what others feel without judgment. Social skills, communicating, listening, and leading with emotional clarity. Motivation, the inner drive to grow and stay resilient. It's not about being soft. It's about being smart with emotion, knowing when to speak, when to pause, when to lean in, and when to let go. Why EQ matters more than IQ. Think about the people you admire. The ones who make others feel seen, the ones who stay calm under pressure, the ones who diffuse tension with grace. That's not raw intelligence, that's emotional intelligence at work. Here's the truth. IQ might get you hired, but EQ gets you promoted. IQ can win the argument, but EQ preserves the relationship. IQ can build the product, but EQ builds the team behind it. Emotional intelligence determines how you handle stress, how you deal with conflict, and how you inspire and influence those around you. In relationships, in leadership, in life, EQ is the difference between success and sabotage. Self-awareness. The foundation of power. The most powerful people aren't the ones who control others, they're the ones who control themselves. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. It's the ability to step outside your own mind and observe, what am I feeling? Why am I reacting this way? Is this response serving me or sabotaging me? Most people live on emotional autopilot, snapping, shutting down, or spiraling without understanding the root of their emotions. but emotionally intelligent people pause, reflect, and choose their response. That's real power, the ability to respond, not react. Self-regulation, keeping control in chaos. We all face stress, conflict, and pressure. But your ability to stay steady in the middle of chaos is what sets you apart. Self-regulation means you don't let anger explode and destroy connection. You don't let anxiety control your decisions. You don't let ego drive your actions. Instead, you choose clarity over chaos, composure over crisis. That doesn't mean you suppress emotions, it means you master them. Emotionally intelligent people feel deeply, but they don't let feelings run the show. They know how to breathe, ground, and navigate storms with grace. Empathy. The secret to strong relationships. Empathy is the heart of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to feel what someone else feels, not to fix it, judge it, or dismiss it, but to understand it. Empathy builds trust. It softens defenses. It says, "You're not alone. I see you. I hear you." In relationships, whether romantic, professional, or personal, empathy is the glue that holds people together. It turns disagreements into dialogue. It transforms tension into teamwork. It allows you to connect deeply, not just on the surface, but soul to soul. And here's the magic. When people feel emotionally safe with you, they show up more honestly, openly, and courageously. Emotional intelligence fuels leadership and influence. Great leaders don't just have vision, they have emotional clarity. They don't just bark orders, they connect with people. They know how to inspire during hard times, how to deliver feedback without crushing spirit, and how to create cultures of trust, not fear. EQ allows you to read the room before you speak, listen between the lines of what's said. Lead with compassion, not just authority. In today's world, people don't follow titles, they follow emotional energy. And leaders with high EQ lead from their presence, not just their position. How to build emotional intelligence. The beauty of EQ is that it's learnable. It's not fixed like IQ. You can grow it through daily reflection. Ask yourself what you're feeling and why. Mindful pauses. Breathe before you react. Respond with intention. Listening with curiosity. Don't just hear words. Listen for emotions. Journaling. Write about your emotional triggers and insights. Therapy, coaching, or reading psychology. Deepen your emotional tools. Every time you choose to pause, to feel, to understand, you build your EQ muscle. And with that, you build your power. Emotional intelligence isn't flashy. It doesn't always show up on paper. But it is the quiet superpower that transforms everything. It gives you influence without force, clarity without chaos, connection without control, and in a world where everyone's yelling to be heard, the emotionally intelligent person listens, understands, and speaks with purpose. That's the person people trust, follow, and remember. So if you want to grow, lead, love, and live better, don't just sharpen your mind. Sharpen your emotional mastery, because that, my friends, is the real superpower. Think sharper, decide smarter every single day. You're faced with choices. Some are small, what to eat, what to wear, what to say. Others are massive, who to trust, what career to pursue, when to walk away, and how to invest your time, energy, or love. And here's the truth. Your life is being shaped, not by what happens to you, but by the decisions you make. So the question isn't, will I make decisions today? The real question is, will I make smart ones? To do that, you don't need to be perfect. But you do need to think sharper with clarity, intention, and emotional intelligence. Because when your mind is cluttered, reactive, or ruled by fear, your decisions reflect that. But when your mind is focused, calm, and clear, you move with purpose, not panic. You don't just act, you decide smarter. Your thoughts are the foundation of your decisions. Let's start with this. Every decision you make flows from how you think. And how you think is shaped by your beliefs, your emotional state, your past experiences, and the stories you tell yourself. If your mind is filled with doubt, fear, or negativity, your decisions will mirror that. If you believe I always mess things up, you'll play small or self-sabotage. If you think there's no point in trying, you won't take bold steps. So thinking sharper begins with cleaning up your mental environment. That means questioning limiting beliefs, catching your biases, rewriting the inner stories that make you shrink, because a cluttered mind makes cloudy decisions. But a clear mind, it becomes a compass. Slowed down speed isn't the same as smart. We live in a world obsessed with speed, fast answers, instant replies, snap judgments, but speed often sacrifices depth. And when it comes to decisions, especially important ones, rush thinking is reckless thinking. Thinking sharper means you learn to pause. You resist the pressure to react instantly. You give yourself space to evaluate, reflect, and respond, not just react. Ask yourself, am I being emotional or logical? Am I making this decision from fear or clarity? Will this move serve me long term or just satisfy the short term? That pause, that breath, that moment of reflection, it's not weakness. It's wisdom. Emotion isn't the enemy, but it needs management. Let's be clear. Emotions matter. They are data. They give insight into what you value, what you fear, what excites or warns you. But emotions are meant to inform your decisions, not control them. You can't make smart decisions when you're angry, desperate, or overwhelmed. You'll quit too soon, say things you don't mean, choose comfort over growth, or you'll stay in what's familiar because you fear the unknown. Emotionally intelligent thinkers ask, what am I feeling right now, and how is it influencing this decision? They create distance between their emotion and their action. That distance, that pause, that's where sharp thinking lives. Biases are sneaky. Learn to outsmart them. Your brain is powerful, but it has shortcuts, and those shortcuts can lead you in the wrong direction. These are called cognitive biases, and everyone has them. You might fall into confirmation bias, only seeing information that supports what you already believe. Negativity bias, focusing more on what could go wrong than what could go right. Sunk cost fallacy, staying in bad situations just because you've already invested time or effort. Thinking sharper means you challenge yourself. You ask, am I seeing the full picture? Am I being honest or just comfortable? If I were advising a friend, what would I tell them? Self-awareness is the antidote to mental shortcuts. And awareness always leads to smarter choices. Decide based on vision, not just emotion. People who think sharply don't just ask, how do I feel right now? They ask, who do I want to become, and does this decision move me closer to that? Your emotions are temporary, but your vision, your goals, your values, your purpose should guide your path. That's the difference between making decisions for now and making decisions for your future. So when in doubt, anchor yourself to your vision. Ask, is this in alignment with who I want to be? Does this move me toward peace, purpose, and progress? Would the highest version of me make this choice? Because smart decisions aren't just about being logical, they're about being aligned. Live with awareness, not assumptions. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where things move fast. We scroll quickly, speak quickly, and make judgments even faster. But in the middle of all that speed, there's something dangerous happening. We begin to assume more than we understand. And here's the hard truth. Assumptions are silent destroyers. They break relationships, limit your growth, and blind you from the truth. But awareness is freedom. Awareness is power. It's clarity. It's presence. It's the difference between living on autopilot and living awake. So today, I want to talk to you about what happens when we stop assuming, start observing, and truly live with awareness, not assumptions. Assumptions are mental shortcuts, but they often lead you wrong. Your brain is wired to fill in the blanks. When you don't have all the facts, your mind quickly creates a story. That's how assumptions are born. We assume someone's tone means they're angry. We assume silence means rejection. We assume a delay means disinterest. We assume a bad day means a bad life. But here's the problem: assumptions aren't truth. They're guesses, and guesses shaped by your past pain, insecurities, or fears are often inaccurate. They lead to misunderstandings, missed opportunities, and unnecessary suffering. The person you think is ignoring you might be fighting their own battles. The cold message might be written by someone overwhelmed. The door you assumed was closed might be wide open if only you had knocked. Living with awareness means slowing down, asking questions, and staying curious, not convinced. Awareness is the antidote to misunderstanding, awareness says. Pause, observe, check the facts, ask, don't assume. When you live with awareness, you don't jump to conclusions, you seek clarity. You realize that your first reaction might not be the right one. That your emotions are valid but not always accurate. That people are layered, complex, and rarely fit into your assumptions. Think of how many relationships break not because of truth, but because of assumptions. She didn't text back, she must not care. He didn't invite me, he's leaving me out. They disagreed with me, they're against me. But living with awareness invites you to say, let me understand before I assume. And in that space between assumption and awareness, healing happens. Growth happens, connection deepens. Assumptions keep you trapped in the past. Awareness brings you into the present. Most of our assumptions are built on past experiences. Someone hurt you, so now you expect pain. Someone left, so now you fear abandonment. Someone lied, so now you question everyone. But awareness helps you realize this is a new moment, a new person, a new opportunity, and it deserves to be seen clearly, not through the lens of your history. When you live with awareness, you stop letting old wounds shape new experiences. You stop repeating cycles you don't even realize you're in. You stop projecting your pain onto people who didn't cause it. Awareness pulls you out of the fog of memory and anchors you in now. And the more present you are, the better your decisions, your responses, and your relationships become. Awareness makes you emotionally intelligent. People who assume live in reaction. People who are aware live in response. Emotional intelligence is built on awareness. It's noticing when your tone is shifting because you're tired, when you're projecting insecurity instead of confidence, when you're about to overreact to something small because something deeper is unresolved. Awareness helps you manage your inner world so you don't project it onto the outer world. It allows you to speak with clarity, listen with empathy, and move with wisdom. And the more emotionally intelligent you become, the more your life transforms, not because the world changed, but because you did. Living with awareness unlocks choice. When you assume, you're reacting based on a false story. You don't see reality, you see your version of it, and you get stuck. But when you become aware, you begin to see clearly, and when you see clearly, you can choose differently. Awareness gives you back your power. You start to ask, is this thought true? Is this emotion helpful? Is this reaction wise? Is this assumption fair? You stop being a puppet of your past or a slave to your story, and you start making conscious, deliberate decisions that align with who you really are. Awareness is a superpower, so what does it mean to live with awareness? Not assumptions. It means you slow down. You observe more than you react. You ask more than you assume. You listen more than you speak. It means you stop making up stories in your head and start discovering the truth of the moment. And that truth, that presence, that is where power lives, that is where peace lives, that is where purpose is found. Assumptions may be easy, but they're expensive. They cost you clarity. They cost you connection. They cost you peace. But awareness gives you the keys to your life back. So live awake. Live alert. Live aware, because when you live with awareness, you don't just exist, you elevate.